with Greg Papa.
Touchdown! San Francisco!
He has nearly 40 years of broadcasting in Northern California. The voice of the San Francisco 49ers, Greg Papa. Sponsored by Sunpoint Public Adjusters, the gold standard of the public adjusting industry.
Well, let's bring him in. Greg Papa, the voice of the 49ers, joining me, Jason Ross. Greg, how are you?
Jason, how are you? Happy holidays. Happy New Year to you. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well. Thank you. I'm going to start off football for a second because you would know, and you know everything Bay Area, and I was absolutely floored. I was off for a couple days, and when I heard the news about Ricky Henderson, that's my childhood hero. I love Ricky. Never had a chance to meet him. I know you did. I just would love your perspective on what a great loss that was for baseball, for Oakland, and for everybody.
Well, that was a week ago. We just got to the hotel in Miami, and Friday night the text started pouring in. Is it true what we're hearing? I'm like, what's going on? They thought Ricky had passed away. He had pneumonia, and it was a bad case of pneumonia, and he was asthmatic on top of it. And Christmas would have been his 66th birthday. Okay, so it was I just saw him. When the A's played their last games in Oakland. I was there the Tuesday night before and saw him that night and saw a lot of the guys. And then he and Stu threw up the first pitch, and he looked great. I mean, I thought Ricky would play baseball forever.
Yeah.
He played when he was 46 in the semi-pro league in San Diego. I never thought we'd lose him before his 66th birthday. And we lost Billy Martin on Christmas Day many, many years ago for an entirely different reason. And, Billy and Tom Troublehorn of the minors, but Billy let him run, let Ricky run, and Billy ball. And 130 stolen bags in 1 year. And, the career accomplishments, the run scored record, everything. And I did the A's games for 14 years. And my first year was 1990. They traded for Ricky to get him back in 89, June of 89. And they took off. He was the last piece of an amazing lineup to lead him off and bat. Dave Henderson or Carney second, the Bass brothers and Steinbach. They just came at you. Dave Parker, the Cobra, and that pitching staff, and Tony. And they were the best team in baseball. And Ricky won the MVP that first year I did A's games in 1990. I remember a doubleheader, July the 5th of 94, I think it was. He homered in the first game of the doubleheader leading off, and he homered in the second game of the doubleheader leading off. That's what he was. And one of the best of all time. So this is hard. I mean, 2024 has been a hell of a year for so many, and the Bay Area sports teams have not done well this year, but we lost so many. Al Adels and Cha-Cha Orlando Cepeda in the BayArea, and nationally we lost Jerry West and Bill Walton, and just so many to name. But more than anything, I remember in the year 2024, we lost our two 24s. We lost Willie Mays and we lost Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, just titans of the sport for sure. Well, Greg, let's transition if we can here to the 49ers. I know when the schedule came out, I personally was very excited for what this Monday night game could have been. The Lions have held up their end of the bargain. We know why it hasn't worked out for the Niners here, but what does San Francisco still try to accomplish on Monday when they take on the Lions?
Play with pride, clean things up. Just too many penalties in Miami, 11 penalties, season high. And they've had games where they've had too many, but by and large, they've not been a heavily penalized team. They're just not playing tight. It's making a lot of mistakes, whether it's post-snap or pre-snap or during the play. They got to tighten it up. They're not playing well enough. And first and foremost, they are facing one of the most explosive offenses this league has ever seen. Detroit's going to score over 500 points, and they're going to do it in 16 games, assuming the Niners, don't shut them out. They're at 493, I think, right now. They're averaging 33 points a game. They're second in total yards. They're sixth in rushing. They're second in passing. They're great on third down. They're great in the red zone. Even if you get them stopped on third down, Dan Campbell will go for it on fourth down. He's 18 of 26 on fourth downs, and mainly they go when it's fourth down and 3 or less. But their offense is explosive, and they're without David Montgomery, the big back, but Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. They come at you. Jamison Williams and Jared Goff is just he's playing the best football. I think they're better than they were when we saw them last year on January 28th on 24, Jason, the championship game, because they've lost a lot of people on defense, obviously, losing Aiden Hutchinson and Lee McNeil, but mainly Hutchinson, major loss. But they're better in the secondary. They drafted Terry Arnold and brought in Amik Robertson in free agency, and they got the two safeties, Joseph and Branch, that are great players. But Goff is better. And the reason we beat him last year in the NFC title game was the legs of the quarterback. Brock ran for first downs over and over again, 21-yard game, 21-yard game, 10-yard game, to set the Niners up to make that epic comeback. And where conversely Goff just could not reset his feet when he got pressure. And mainly there were a couple of huge fourth downs in the second half of that game where he could not reset his feet. And that was the difference in the game. But it's not technically going to be a rematch. The winner of this game is not going to the Super Bowl. And even if Detroit loses, they can still do what they want to do this year. And the Niners are playing it out. But you got to play with pride. You got to tighten it up. You got to play. This is the best team. I mean, Buffalo was a real challenge. But dealing with these guys and their offense, and I'm going to bring back memories of last year, that championship game. We can't forget that comeback. That was the greatest comeback in the history of the championship game in the NFL. They came from 17 down, 24-7 at halftime. I thought it was over. Detroit looked unstoppable in that first half, and the Niners came back to be a ricochet to Sean Gibson strip and recovery by Eric Armstead. McCaffrey's run down the right sideline where he landed literally on his head and then had to come out. And I mean, that's the loudest I've ever heard Devon. So that was just incredibly loud. And so it's not what we thought when the schedule came out. We thought this would be for the 1 seed. They're battling for the 1 seed with Minnesota. So it is for them. But for the Niners, let's play it out the right way, play with professional pride, and just tighten it up. I know they got a lot of injuries and different players playing everywhere, but look at Detroit's defense. I mean, they're ravaged by injuries, and they're still playing well on that side of the ball.
Yeah, Greg, you mentioned Jared Goff. A lot of times when the Rams didn't give up on him. They made a trade. They thought they would upgrade, and they got a Super Bowl out of it with Stafford. But, when you jump teams, it doesn't always, extend your career or launch you to another level. The kind of Goff rebirth in Detroit has surprised me a little bit. How about you?
Oh, without doubt. I think they did give up on him. They felt like, and he was a good Ram. They went to the Super Bowl there. He made a couple of Pro Bowls. But I think they felt like he wasn't quite good enough. And Sean McVay's tough on quarterbacks. The way Kyle's tough on quarterbacks. And they had a chance to get Matthew Stafford. Stafford wanted out of Detroit. The Niners wanted Stafford. They were trying to get him as well. But Kyle was in the wrong place in Cabo that offseason. Stafford and Andrew Whitworth were hanging out, and Sean McVay's there, and I don't know how many tequila shots they did before he's traded. And they gave up a lot, draft picks and to get Stafford. And Stafford's first year, they won the Super Bowl in L.A. So Goff's sitting there in Detroit like, what's going on? And they weren't good. They lost. Stan Campbell lost, initially. I think they were 13-1, and now look at them. And he is better. He's a great thrower of the foot. He's the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And we obviously saw him at, locally at Cal and Marin Catholic in high school. And, what a talent. But he's not, he's not the best resetting his feet. That was the one thing with him. I think he's gotten better at that. I've seen him reset his feet a lot this year. When he's flushed out of the pocket, there was one scramble against Buffalo where he was able to get out to his left. He ran for a first down. They're rolling the pocket a lot to get him out on the perimeter, get him off the midline, and he is showing that reset of the feet. So I don't think he's going to win the MVP this year. I think it's coming down to Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen of Buffalo, but he's right there. His numbers, he's thrown for over 4,000 yards. He's got 33 touchdown passes, low interception total, and he's got 2 more games to go. So he can wind up with like 4,600 yards. He's having a great year, and they win. And so I think Goff, his career resurgence, change teams like this and play as well. He's got 13 wins. He had 13 with the LA Rams. The only other 2 quarterbacks in the history of football to have a pair of 13-win seasons, or a 13-win season, I should say, with 2 different franchises, are the guys that have defined quarterback play this century. Peyton Manning and Tom Brady.
Wow.
And Jared Goff is the third. He won 13 with the Rams, got into the Super Bowl, was confused by Belichick's defense, and for whatever reason, McVay wanted to upgrade, and they already gave him a big contract, so they had a lot, making that deal. And now he's got 13 wins with the Lions, and they got 2 more games to go. They could wind up 15-2 this year.
Incredible. On the Niners side of things, Greg, do you expect Garendo to play tomorrow or Monday?
We'll find out. I'll be at practice today, and we'll look at it. They certainly missed him last game, Jay. So they didn't have a traditional running game without Garendo and without McCaffrey and without Mason and Mitchell. It goes on and on. Patrick Taylor Jr. lined up at that spot a lot, but just wasn't as productive. He did not have a great game catching the ball to the backfield. They actually used Devo like 10 snaps as a pure running back with no other running backs on the field. It was all wide receivers and tight ends. So Devo played running back a lot. So it would certainly help to get Garendo back. You got to have some balance against this team. This team is going to blitz you a lot. Ever since they lost Hutchinson, Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator, and both of their coordinators may be head coaches in this hiring cycle. Ben Johnson, the offensive guy, is just a genius. And then Aaron Glenn, the way they play, and then he was a really good player in the NFL corner for a long time with the Jets. So they blitz you a lot. They take the ball away a lot, and they play a lot of man, really tight man-to-man coverage. Their secondary is better. As I said, I'm getting Terry on Arnold in the draft, and Amik Robertson, and the safeties are good. And they're tight back there. So you can't expect Brock to drop back and throw it all game long, 40 or 50 times. Plus, we don't really know what the left side of the offensive line is going to look like. There was a mash unit in Miami. You don't have Trent Williams anyway, and he's down for the year now. And then Jalen Moore at left tackle has a quad injury. He's down. Aaron Banks had a concussion. Brandel Pooney and McKivitz will be at center, right guard, and right tackle. But right now, they're kind of piecing it together based on Burford's health. They could play Nick Sackel. We'll see what they do. But you got to have balance. You got to be able to run the ball. Otherwise, you don't want Brock dropping back with this blitz-heavy offense, and especially with a depleted left side of the offensive line.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that pride plays out for the 49ers this Monday. Greg, we look forward to the game. We look forward to talking to you next week, and have a great weekend and a great New Year's as well.